What's going on, my friends? I'm Sean Pierce Johnson, and welcome to this week's episode of Stompbox Saturday. Now, we're in for a long one today, so whatever time of day it is, grab yourself an appropriate beverage and maybe a snack, because we're going in on a deep dive with the NUX Amp Academy. Now, at first glance, you might be inclined to think that based on its aesthetic, this thing is much more of a Marshall in a box, but you would be wrong. The Amp Academy is NUX's answer to the various different amplifier simulator pedals that have come out onto the market in the last 5 years or so. Can this thing hang alongside, say, the Strymon Iridium, the Walrus Audio ACS1, heck, even something like an HX Stomp? Quite possibly. It is fully packed with features that get you clean tones, crunch tones, higher gain classic tones to modern high gain tones. There's a lot to cover here, so we might as well dive into it right now. Now let's take a moment to talk about the controls and specifications of the Amp Academy. And to do that, we're going old school. Throw the pedal up on the screen. Nice. And let's talk about everything that we can do just with the Amp Academy as a pedal. What's great is that it doesn't veer too much from other pedal-based amp sims. It's very simple and laid out just like your favorite guitar amp. This one taking a decidedly plexi kind of inspiration, or at least 800 inspiration, but that's beside the point. We have the typical bass, middle, and treble EQ controls, which is fantastic, and the addition of an onboard presence control. We have gain and volume, and then these two knobs are a little special and have a couple different functions. This first one right here is the level control for an internal boost pedal, which you can add on to the amp models in the Amp Academy through the editor software. This next one sets the sensitivity of a built-in noise gate that you can then add on to the rigs as well. Now, both those knobs do have an alternative control by pressing and holding down on the scene foot switch, and it adjusts the depth and level of reverbs that you can program into your favorite presets. Now, yes, I did say presets, and on the pedal itself, you have access to 3 different scenes or banks of presets on the Amp Academy, and you can foot switch through them using the right side foot switch. Now, you can actually have 2 different amps set per scene with A and B that you swap between them with the left foot switch. To bypass the Amp Academy, you need to press both foot switches at the same time, which depending on the size of your foot could be a little cumbersome, but I have a feeling most of us are probably going to leave this thing on all the time, so it really shouldn't be that big of a deal. As far as inputs and outputs go, we have a mono in and a mono out on the top of the pedal's enclosure. A DI output on the side means that you can just take an XLR cable, plug right into the side, and go to your DAW or mixing desk. But my favorite thing is the TRS jack on the top of the enclosure. NUX includes with the Amp Academy a Y cable that goes from male TRS to dual mono TS female jacks. That basically means that you can patch in your favorite delays, modulations, and reverbs just like you would if you were using your amp's effects loop. Now, with all this said, it certainly seems like the Amp Academy could live up to the Iridiums, the HX Stompses, the ACS1s, the et als of pedal-based amplifier simulators. But of course, the big judge of that is how this thing sounds. So let's do this. Picking up the main Les Paul, let's go ahead and fire this thing up, and I'll treat it just like I took it out of the box for the first time, to give you an idea of what you can do without having to hook it up to your computer just yet. And just one note, everything that you're going to be hearing for a while now is going to be coming direct from the DI output of the Amp Academy. So we'll be able to hear the IRs, the effects, everything that's built into the Amp Academy. But let's stop talking about it and let's finally hear it. Okay, let's get started exploring. Now, I've just kind of arranged things in a way that seems most random to me. Now, let's just start messing around with things. Obviously, the amp controls, they're pretty self-explanatory. They make all those EQ adjustments that we love. let's just turn off this boost, turn off the, oh, interesting. See that? I turned down the boost all the way, and that got rid of our level, which means that there's a boost pedal on, or maybe a compressor or something. I don't know if there's any noise reduction on here. There might be a little bit, but not a whole lot. We'll just go ahead and leave that off. So with the Alt controls, we can control this reverb. So press and hold down on that. We have the level, we have the decay. Let's just turn those down. And there we go. There's our sound without any reverb on it. Now, one of the things that I have noticed that you will need to be a little bit careful with is that this DI output can be pretty hot. If you have a mic pre that allows you to pad the input, go ahead and turn that on so you get a little bit more play. Basically what I'm doing here is I do have it hooked up to the computer, and I'm just bringing down the level of the DI from the software, but I'm not using the software for anything other than that right now. I really like the way that this clean tone sounds and the way that it feels. It actually does capture some of that American Fendery style clean thing. Let's go ahead and flick around and let's try some of these other amp sounds. Let's go to the classic setting here. Kind of plexi-ish. Let's go ahead and treat it like a plexi. Let's switch over to scene B. This is where we're gonna get probably more of our jugga jigga wugga thing on. Whoa. Now, I've had the Amp Academy for a while, so I know what I'm doing already, but I did this to sort of prove a point, and that is that the Amp Academy really opens up to you if you connect it to your computer and utilize the editor software. You'll have much more control over those parameters and those effects that you can build into each scene and each preset than you would if you were just using it as a pedal. So with that in mind, now let's hook the thing up to the software. I will record the software that I am manipulating, and you'll be able to see everything at your disposal with the Amp Academy's editor software. All right, friends, welcome to the Amp Academy editor software. And I gotta give NUX a lot of credit. This is a really well done application. It is very easy to wrap your head around. It doesn't take a whole lot of practice, and there is a ton of stuff built into it that really unleashes the full power of the Amp Academy. So as you can see right off the bat, we have all our amp control layouts, and you'll notice that this one has a bright switch rather than just the presence control. But if we cycle through a different amplifier, say maybe this Mr. Z, that comes back, but then we have a cut knob. It means that there's even deeper editing and deeper ideas and tone shaping options than just what the pedal suggests based on the different amplifier models that you have at your disposal. Now, to that point, what I said earlier is that on the pedal, it looks like you just have access to 6 different amplifiers, but you actually have access to 6 different amplifiers on channel A and 6 different amplifiers on channel B. So you have 12 different amplifiers to choose from with this most recent firmware update. Underneath that, you have basically your signal flow layout. And this is gonna be where you drag and drop noise reduction, amp modeling, your impulse responses. Why would anybody want to put an impulse response before the amp modeling? Add on EQ, disable or enable the built-in effects loop, add on reverb, and do all sorts of tone shaping stuff. In the bottom, this is our impulse response section. Now it comes loaded with chop tones impulse responses in slots 1 through 12, but 13 through 28, those are totally open to you and your impulse response collection. I have already taken the liberty of loading quite a few of my favorites from my Lancaster audio collection. So why don't we go ahead and get started, and let's create ourselves a tone. We start out with something pretty cool. Notice we also have a bias control on this, which means we might be able to make this super reverb a little hotter than a stock one. Let's go ahead and crank it up and see what happens. Ooh, definitely get a little louder. Kind of feels like it warms it up a little bit. Maybe if we just back it off ever so, maybe like right there. I like that. Let's leave it right there. All right, now let's make some adjustments just based on the amplifier. Let's add a little bit more gain, get rid of some of that master. Then if we want to, we can turn on the effects loop. Now I have a couple pedals down on the floor. I got my Walrus Audio Mako M1 and D1. We can add on some, say, tremolo from the M1. Or maybe some delay. Now you may have heard a few little crackles, a few little crinkles. If we need to adjust anything, we can right click on the send and return, and this opens up a send and return level control, which gives us further flexibility over the sounds of the rig. Now, one of the additional cool things is that we have different preamp effects, which basically amounts to compressors, overdrives, boost pedals, all sorts of stuff like that, ranging from Ross style compressors, Keeley compressors and clean boosts, some exotic effects, even a couple of JHS kind of things like the Morning Glory. So let's go ahead and let's have some fun with this. Let's try that. See, the red dirt, that would be like a Keeley kind of modded tube screamer thing. Try a couple more. Let's do the AC boost. That's kind of like the exotic AC booster, which I knew a lot of guys back in the day who loved that pedal. Let's go ahead and try it out. Drives sound pretty good. Okay, let's get to the real meat and potatoes of this thing. We can really push this thing out, go into the dirty stuff. Let's turn off all of this nonsense and check this out. We got a Fireman, which is basically the NUX interpretation of the BE100. We got a Brit 800, a JCM 800, a dual rectifier, a SLO 100, a Bogner Uberschall, and a Diesel VH4, which is something that I've been loving a bit recently. Get rid of that EQ. What's the boost we have? We have a tube screamer in front of it. Let's get rid of that. And what about getting rid of this noise gate, eh? Look at how different that is. At the start of it, it was like a distorted sound fit for an 8-string, but now with the Les Paul, it's like, get rid of all of that. We need something real thick. We should make a preset. So let's do it with this 800 sound. Now I am gonna use everything in here to create a sound. I'm not gonna use any of my own IRs just yet. Check out some of the more of these IRs. Whoa! That's loud. I don't really like that one for this. Let's try the rectifier 412. Ooh, I like that. Yeah, let's go with that. All right, now let me go ahead and throw this noise reduction in here between the amp and the IR. And I don't think I'm gonna need a whole lot of noise reduction here, but let's go ahead and give it a shot. Maybe I'm gonna make the decay pretty long. I'm not gonna have the sensitivity up too much. I don't want it to choke things. I just wanna rein in a little bit of it if things get a little out of hand. I'll go ahead and turn on the send and return in case I want to add on maybe some like rotary speaker kind of stuff. Now this gives us an opportunity to open this up and play around with the send and return level. I think we can do it with that. Maybe adding on a little bit of reverb. Now for this, I'm feeling not too much. And this damp one is a really nice, just general ambiance, but you can get a little bit more hefty with it. If I turn up the depth all the way, you can hear that's pretty big. But let me just back it off a tad. Maybe up the mix just ever so slightly. At that point, it just kind of feels like you're playing the amp in a nice room. Now let's go ahead and explore, say, adding on a boost to this. Now we have all these options, but let's just go ahead and play around with this Katana, which I assume is based on the Keeley Katana boost. That gives everything a much more muffled kind of sound, and we need something with a little bit more articulation to it. What if we just added on a tube screamer? I'm not gonna go and do the whole like typical thing like this. I'm gonna kind of change it up a little bit, adding in a bit of the drive, a little bit less level, make it on the darker side. Let's see what that gets us. Maybe we'll try one of the exotic kind of pedals. Maybe the RC will be our friend. It might be. Now let's go ahead and finish that with a little bit of EQ. I'm gonna go ahead and move it. Go ahead and move it before the impulse response, after the send and return, so it's happening before it goes to our speaker simulation. Now this is what we get, and it's pretty much your standard kind of 6-band EQ. All these frequency ranges kind of correspond to guitar really well. There are a few that I would have liked to have seen maybe a little higher, but I think that these do the job quite nicely. Pretty easy. All you have to do if you're using the software is click this old school floppy disk icon and you can save that thusly. It's pretty awesome. I like it a lot. And really, the software is where the power of the Amp Academy comes from. And so with that being said, and having shown you how you can manipulate it in order to get sounds that you're after, I'd like to show you a few presets that I really love that I've conjured up all by using the software and just running direct. This isn't just gonna be with the trusty Les Paul. We're gonna bring some other guitars in as well. So let's check them out. Okay, to wrap up our look at the NUX Amp Academy, let's go ahead and plug this thing into a raucous 100 watt EL34 powered power amp and into my orange PPC 212 speaker cab with some microphones on it. Because hey, you can use the Amp Academy as a preamp for use into the effects return of an amplifier or a tube power amp or any other power amp of your choice, and still get the DI guitar signal sent to front of house. So let's go ahead and hear how my clean and dirty sounds go, mic'd up. And there you have it, my friends. There is our in-depth look at the NUX Amp Academy amp sim pedal. Man, for $200, this thing is going to be hard to beat. Not many pedal amp sims, even ones that are more expensive than this, offer as extensive a sound palette as you have in the Amp Academy. Different clean and crunch and high gain amplifiers that at the face value looks like you only have access to 6. You actually have 12, which is pretty darn impressive. That and the built-in effects, the various different types of reverbs and overdrive pedals means that this thing, it's just gonna be hard to beat. However, there are a few things that I think I need to bring up because you would most likely have noticed it. Personally, I feel that the XLR output is just a little too hot for my taste. If you don't have a mic preamp that has an input pad, or if a channel on your mixing console doesn't have an input pad for the preamp, this is gonna output a really, really hot signal. And although you can bring that down in the editor software, if you were just using this thing on the gig and didn't have your computer with you, you wouldn't be able to do that. If there's a way to pad this output a little bit, I think NUX should consider that. I do love the fact that it has a built-in effects loop, and it's great that NUX includes the Y cable in order for you to connect to it. However, there's something about the send and return levels that just doesn't seem to quite gel with me. I don't know, even after a while of getting to know this pedal and feeling like I have a good grasp on it, I'm still finding that if I use the effects loop, there's certain noise issues, little pops and cracks that you wouldn't really want present in your DI guitar sound. The last thing is really just more of a suggestion for NUX, and that is that it would be really great if some of those features, those deeper editing features that are available in the software, were more accessible just on the face of the pedal. Again, not all of us are bringing our laptop to the gig, so some of those features we might want to be able to just tweak right on the face of the pedal. We already have to press and hold on the scene foot switch in order to adjust the decay and level of the reverb. Maybe we could do the same thing for some of the overdrive controls, like maybe the gain knob turns into the gain knob on an overdrive pedal. The boost level is still the boost level control, and then maybe the presence control or even the master control becomes the tone knob on that overdrive. It would just be a great thing to have a little bit more flexibility just on the face of the pedal. Ultimately, if you're looking to dip your toes into the amp sim pedal world, the Amp Academy is a great first option to take a look at. At $200, you are not going to find an option of its price point that is as full-featured as this. The access to 12 different amplifiers, the amount of sounds you can create with it, the controls that you have on the face of the pedal and in that editor software, it's just unlike any other option on the market. Even the more expensive ones, because let's face it, the more expensive ones are more expensive, and even some more expensive ones don't have quite the level of tones available, features available. They're kind of just amps in a box. But the Amp Academy is far more than just an amp in a box. To close, I just want to say a huge thank you to you watching out there and for spending part of your day with me. If you enjoyed the video and you want to see more and help me in my endeavor to make better guitar gear demos for players from all walks of life, please consider joining my email newsletter club, where I send video links like this one to your inbox the minute or relatively close to the minute that the video goes live. You can do so by going to SeanPierceJohnson.com/email or clicking the link in the description box down below. Just enter your first and last name and your email address, and in about 2 to 3 days you'll get an email confirmation, because I still have to enter your email addresses manually. Until next time, my friends, I'm Sean Pierce Johnson, wishing you all watching great tone, great health, and of course, happy stomping. Cheers, friends. God bless.